I'm going to kick us off. If you've graded before, it's possible that you enter your grading settings through Quick Eval, and this is where it is. And so when you click on Quick Eval, you should see your student submissions in various formats. So this time, I'm just going to go to a different tab, and here I will show you that you can view this by submissions. That's the default view. And then the other way is to view by activities. So when you're viewing by submissions, you can go directly to these individuals' papers or discussion posts. And by if you click on activities, then you see a little bit more, which may give you more information overall about the class progress. So you both see individual submissions here and the big picture. So for instance, I see that I have module 2 discussion, and when I mouse over it, I see that there's one new post. I get the option to evaluate everybody. I can see submission lists, and I can also have an extra step here is to dismiss until. So, and that changes when I mouse on and off. So this is one way to interact with the volume of your submissions. You probably have a little more than I do here in the demo. So if you choose to dismiss until, which you may want to do if you have, for instance, discussion forum posts that you don't want to address just yet, because you want to make sure that everybody participates and everybody's ready to grade. And then you might select a specific date, which is the due date when the week closes, for instance. Or you can be more flexible and just dismiss that until next submission. You can also, if it's an old course or if it's the kind that, if you are still a member of our faculty sandbox, then you can dismiss those forever too. So that should help you with just managing these. Typically, our faculty teach one course and their own course. Sometimes they can also see submissions from a course in which they're helping out. So the best way to focus and zero in on just the submissions for your own students is to access Quick Eval from your own course.
Continuing with the grading theme, I'm going to be demonstrating from the training sandbox, which should cover everything we need. The first thing I want to show is how to get to grades from how we're talking about it. So from your course homepage, so I'm within a course here, I'm going to go to grades and grades. And this is the default view. So this is a test student in here, but we can see that the student has some grades and some different types of assignments. So final grade, final calculated grade is that first column here that you see. And then we see here, again, this is a faculty training, so it's set up a little differently. This one's called education assignments. This is what's called a category. And so that I can collapse it and all the education assignments go into one column, which is not super helpful because you want to be able to see individual grades. But yours might say discussions, those could be grouped together, or assignments could be grouped together, especially in matriculated programs. And SPHP uses categories because grades are often weighted. We are trying to make the first graded item show up at the beginning of the grade book for consistency. One helpful view here is the spreadsheet view, which is this button right here. So if I switch to spreadsheet view, this makes everything fillable. So this can help if you have some sort of text field, if you have a course where you assign TAs or advisors, you could put that column here, and going to spreadsheet view will allow you to fill that out. That's also helpful in SPHP for the start date, the end date. One more thing to show is manage grades. As you can see, this grade book scrolls to the left, or I mean to the right, sorry. So to get to the end and to figure out where something is can be kind of tedious. So manage grades can be a little more of a usable view. So I can see those groups, the category and the things that are grouped under it. discussion assignments. And I can go down, I can see this is a long one because it's a sample. So yours would be a much shorter and cleaner than this. But at the bottom, if I scroll all the way down, I can see what the points add to. So again, in a matriculated program, that would likely be 100. And that would be all you need to worry about. But this can be helpful just to view. We do want to remind you, please don't change anything on this page. This is set up and maintained by IDS. However, if you see an error or something confuses you or doesn't add up, you can always go to report a problem and let us know, and we will follow up with you on that. So that is the Grades Center. And now we're going to talk about rubrics, and I'm going to go straight from the grades, and I'm going to switch back to standard view. And Olga covered quick eval. That's one way that I think we recommend grading from, but you can get to grading from the gradebook. So for example, all of these are submissions. That little icon means these have been submitted. So if I click on the public health assignment, it brings me into grading that assignment. So in an assignment, and we're going to talk about annotating in a second, but first we're just talking about the rubrics. The rubric shows up over here, so I can expand it. And that either place I click expands that. I can see the total score. And if I were to adjust that, the score would adjust. As I give each criteria a score, I can also expand this and give feedback specific to that criterion. And that is true for each one. Or I can give overall feedback down here. And I can adjust the overall grade. Wherever you can give overall feedback, you can attach, or you can record audio feedback or video feedback. So sometimes that's nice. It's a little more personal, especially in our online only courses. It can help your students feel like they are getting to know you a little bit better and getting a little more interaction, a little more teacher presence. Please note that in recording video feedback, that will just be, it's like the video note feature. So it will be your face. Like this. So if I hit new recording, it would record me and that would save straight into the course. That's not something you can download or do anything with, but the student would see it. They, however, would not see where you're looking on their assignment. We do have support for video grading where you can scroll through their assignment or watch their video submission and give real-time feedback. So that's a little more advanced. If you want to know that, you can reach out to IDS. Or let us know from this point. We could maybe do a webinar on that more advanced topic. So all of that feedback is super useful and students very much appreciate it. And then when you're done, you would publish it, or you can save as a draft and come back to it if, for example, you needed to take a break. So I'm going to leave without saving those changes, but it does warn me if I didn't save, so that's nice. And it did kick me back into this assignment, so that's something to know, and that's one of the reasons we advise using quick eval, because when you go from the gradebook or from the individual assignments, it can be kind of confusing. So, however, I just went back to the gradebook, and I'm going to now show you discussion boards. We touched on this in our last webinar, but there is a new evaluation experience that makes discussion boards the grading of discussion boards look like the assignments, which is very nice. We actually like that better. However, and this little arrow right here is how you can toggle. So if you choose one and change your mind, that arrow should still be there. You can change it back. Say I turn it off, and I'm not going to click a reason. Then this is the old way of grading. So the rubric does take up quite a bit of space. If you were to use it this way, that's fine. This rubric's not ideal. It has hanging decimals. We usually try to get rid of those, but this is, again, it's a faculty training, so it's okay. You would pick, your category grades, and this is where you can add feedback from this point of view. So you can still give it per criterion, and scrolling down, you can still give overall feedback down here. You can also see their responses down here. So this is where this one gets a little bit clunky because a person who has posted multiple things all shows up here. So I do recommend the new experience. It's just a little bit cleaner. Again, you can still see that the multiple posts are here, but you can click into one or you can see the whole thing here and use the rubric next to it. Again, this looks like the assignment one. I can give feedback per criterion. I can give overall feedback. I don't see this options for video and audio feedback here. So that might be a difference still in this, but that's okay. You can, if you wanted to give video audio feedback when you're in a discussion, you could reply with a video. So that would be a little bit more public. Other people could see it, but it's a way to engage with them if you wanted from the discussion with video. So now I will go back to, or I'm going to navigate to a new tab and show another way to access. So if you have assignments in the course and you go course activities, assignments, then you'll see a list of the assignments in that course. And this is another way to grade. Again, I do believe it's a little bit clunkier than Quick Eval, but it's an option. The little arrow next to the assignment, again, these are all named the same thing, but in your course, they would have different names. And then you go to view submissions. In this case, I can see there is a submission, so I'll only see one. I can either click here or I can click evaluate to go into grade. And again, this is an assignment, so this looks like it did before. There's a rubric here. You can add feedback here, but sometimes when you're looking at a file submission, you want to make some inline comments or annotations and give feedback that way. So the secret to that is highlighting text. So when you highlight something is when you get these options. So say I want to highlight this. I don't love that they use this word. And then when you click on it, so I highlighted it. I'm just going to show that again. So if I highlight, there are a few options: highlight, cross out, underline. I guess this is that grammar squiggle. So you can use that, have those as you like. But once you've done it, and then you click on the highlighted text, you get these options. So I can add a note. So I can say students must first, and say I want to say evaluate. If that was my comment, I could put that there. Or if I really love this, or I just really don't like this whole sentence and I think they could be better, you can put your comments in there. If you change your mind, you can delete. You can also just click out of it, and then hovering over will show you what you wrote. It might also be helpful if you put these in, they can be a little bit small. So if you don't do something like highlighting and it seems a little bit more subtle, you could always put in your feedback that there are notes and the student should look for comments in line.
We have a question. Could you show us the quickest way to see a student's quiz submission, not the total score, but the individual answers? So we are going to have a whole webinar on that in 2 weeks. So we do invite you to that, specifically to address all the questions that relate to grading quizzes, because quizzes are quite complex, and that explains the question itself as well. That's where it's coming from.
I think that the course progress section we're going to get to a little bit later might be helpful with this as well. But yes, from course admin, which is in your navigation bar, normally by default, it's separated by category. I like to separate it by name. I think a lot of us do. So that's why my view might look slightly different. Then it's alphabetical. So quizzes is near the bottom. So yeah, so if I go to the arrow next to the quiz, go to grade, I can see the attempt that's on it. And then I can see each question. And if there were already feedback that you had given, you could expand that feedback. So I believe that does answer the question for in one way of how to get and to see each question per student. So for example, this one's wrong. You can see for this student that they missed it and what it looks like. So from the grades page, I've navigated there again, and I do have a quiz here. I can click this little question icon. So clicking that opened this dialog box. And this is a completion summary. So I could see why going from there, you think you can't see the quiz questions because the default is a summary. But up here where it says attempt, if I click the drop down and I go to attempt 1, that is that student's actual submission. So instead of the summary, now it's specific to the time they took the quiz, and it tells you when, how much time they spent, 42 seconds in this case. And then if you keep scrolling down, you can see their answers broken down by question. And so again, this is that same one. So you can see where they missed one. And this is good because if something isn't auto-graded, you could go in and grade it here. But we will go more in depth on quizzes in the next webinar. So great, thank you for the question.
And this time we are going to talk about class progress. And that may be another way, helpful way to view how well your students are doing. So class progress actually by default looks a little bit different, most likely in your own sections. What you can do though, is you can play with it and see how you like it. If you click on the settings, then there are a couple more options that you can explore. So in this case, I've already used up all my freebies, and now all I can do is replace. What are the other progress indicator I might want to use? So these are some of my options. This does not change anything other than your own interface. And so give it a shot, try it, see how you like it. You can add criteria to your liking. What it does though, it shows, in my case, what I find helpful in this setting is grades, quizzes, and assignment submissions. I can see that I have some students who may have submitted something, but have not been graded yet, and it's now showing up here. At the same time, there are some other places where I can see how individuals are doing. This individual is not doing too well, it's in red, and this individual is doing quite all right. So this populates as there more assignments come in and are graded. You can see at a glance whether there is any trend here for longer submissions or as this gets built up, as well as the overall grade is available as well. So sometimes it says everybody gets A+, or the other way around. So everything about the class is available at a glance. And how to access it, okay, I'll have to switch around a little bit and go into a course. Let's go into nutrition. I'm showing you a template just because the top nav bar is a little different. So grades and then class progress. And that allows you to see the same columns as I have just shown. So that's what class progress is about. All right. And we can provide more information. In fact, there is a little bit on this already in your faculty orientation that we offered in the beginning, the introduction to D2L. And then as time goes on, we are building up this collection of tutorials, and this is where we answer your questions. When you don't find your question answered yet, then you can scroll down to the bottom and fill out this form. And we receive a question. When we receive a question, we do address them. somebody asked a question, how would you preview quiz and review student attempts? That's also available here. This may be sufficient. This, if this does not address your question to the fullest, please let us know as well. We do respond to inquiries here.
Thank you for coming. Thank you for your questions.